Hello, my friends. I hope you had a fantastic day, either or night, wherever you are. Today, I'm back with James talking about social media, content creation, AI. Are we all going to lose our jobs? I'll stop wasting your time. Thank you so much for coming back. Going to hand over to past me to introduce this interview and host this interview for you, and I'll see you in just a moment's time.
Hello, one and all. My name is James. I run a company called Shogun Social, a social media marketing agency designed to help businesses post like content creators to generate interest and demand for their products online.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the time, James. Appreciate it. And you've been on the show before, so I won't go over some of the stuff that we went over in that, but I will leave it in the description for those who are interested. But the world of social media has changed because it's a very fast-moving world, and all manner of things that we do have changed. So we have a couple of things we're going to discuss today, but I wanted to start basic reasons. Why should someone consider creating content now? Because the economy is in a fun, interesting place, as people keep telling me, and I keep talking to people about. Why content? Why do we care? Why do we both have jobs, and why, I would hope, are we both incredibly busy right now?
Indeed, always. So the thing with social is social historically, when we look at the history of marketing, let's keep it condensed over the last 10 years, right? Social has been something that's always been relatively new. It's always been an outsider on the outskirts, and there's something where it's always at the bottom of the pile, right? You update social last and your other channels are up here, their TV, radio, their print, their whatever. And as time's gone on, social has matured, and there's been a bit of a frog in the boiling pot situation for a lot of different brands. Also, the trends of which users find products, services, and just things they enjoy have also changed. So it went from classic word of mouth before the internet, and then you got Yellow Pages, then Google search, and now it's going through this almost evolution where social search is becoming just as important as Google search is and was. So there's this element of brands really have underutilized organic social the most. So when I say organic, anything you can post for free, right? And it's kind of something where, okay, James, well, why should I bother with social? Where's the proof? The proof is every time you open your phone, you're digesting something from a content creator. You probably spend at least 4 hours a day on your phone, like most human beings, probably more. That's just my TikTok user time, let alone anything else. So when you get to that stage, you are actively participating in it every single day. You can't ignore it from a business point of view. The challenge overwhelms you, and there's a lot of personal psychology tied up in social, because if you don't want to put yourself out there, it's scary. I'm on video, your human insecurities come out. I get it. But as a tool for business, it's now ridiculously important to the point where if you're not on social, if you're not creating content that educates, inspires, entertains, and especially revolves around search, if that's part of your brand, especially looking at you B2B, you don't exist, because it's everyone's reference point. It's the new word of mouth alongside physical word of mouth. So if you don't have proof to back up the pudding, you can't just have a website anymore and expect it to work. That's how I see it. And social is your brand equity, right? Brand used to be something where if I'm old, I'm there, I'll last forever. Not how it works. Relevancy, especially for Gen Z, millennial, so ultra important that if you're not doing it, you're not contributing it, you don't exist. So to exist, to be known, to be trusted, you must be on social every single day.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I mean, we're very biased, right, because of what we do, but from what I've noticed, there's been a lot of conversations across the last couple of years, and when we first met, there was a massive kind of conversation around what is TikTok, why is TikTok a thing, how is TikTok a thing.
I'm still explaining the basics to this day.
But for those, because there's still, I think, a large percentage of the business world especially, who still think TikTok is for dancing, who still think TikTok is for lip syncing. And yes, we're going to asterisk this by saying that content doesn't exist on TikTok. But actually, I think you coined the term, or I stole it from you, etc., of community talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, really, really quickly, layman's terms, what is a community talk, and how can a business potentially leverage their own community talk?
Absolutely. So it was a term coined on like just general TikTok, right? I called it community talk because explaining TikTok and TikTok trends to someone who doesn't have the app is just, you sound like an insane person, right? You have no contextual relevance. So to put it simply, and this goes for any app, by the way, with a kind of video engine. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reels, YouTube Shorts, all of them, they all work in algorithms. They all want to serve you what you want to get. And TikTok has probably the best and most advanced algorithm out of all of them, right? It just works the best. I'm not even sure if it's the most complicated, but it's just flawless. What it does is it puts you into the things you'd like, right? So imagine that most content is digested on the For You page. So on TikTok, if you're unfamiliar, you have the following and the For You page. 70% of all content at least is digested on the For You page. It's a constant stream of new stuff. The algorithm will then figure out what it should serve you on that For You page, testing out new things as it goes. But for the majority, you say 60% will be your usual interest, so your community talks. So mine's anime, basketball, business, and the occasional meme, right? Those four circulate. Those are my community talks, meme talk, anime talk, things like that. And it's referred to like that because you'll be on that side of TikTok. So I'm on the gaming side of TikTok, or I'm on the business side of TikTok. And people get in these, for better or worse, these bubbles that they sit within. And whether you know it or not, on every app you're on, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, you're currently in one of those. And the goal for a business should be to contribute to the right bubble and the right community talk to be found, discovered, and to bring new users to you. It's the first time we've had an actual discovery engine that isn't just posting a graphic or an image and hoping to God we grow, because that basically was social before. Now we actually have a vehicle to go out and get new people constantly. And that's what businesses are underestimating every single day.
I think so many people, but of course you've already mentioned it about the psychology element of like, oh my God, I need to put myself on camera. What if I get it wrong, etc., 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 which we can, of course, discuss how to troubleshoot that. But I think, especially as we've noticed kind of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all these engines sort of really change and become more, I would say more search engine-y. They're not fully, but they are definitely relevant in respect to the copy isn't just like a catch-all, we're going to just throw some stuff in here and it doesn't really matter as much kind of stage anymore. And I kind of want to segment this question as well with the rise of ChatGPT and the rise of AI, because it's a massive conversation in our space around should you use it, how should you use it, what should you use, and of course that leads on to AI editing and stuff that I'm sure we'll get onto as well. But like, quick history lesson for those who don't know, like social media for initial point was like post some stuff, it's cool, your friends can like it, cool, fantastic. And then it shifted to what? Search? Like search driven content, e.g. the content as in that copy, those words.
The parallel between YouTube helped start social search, and then other platforms have only recently really started to borrow elements of that. They just tend to use the search data to serve you something new. You don't go on Facebook and you don't search for like new McLaren videos. You do that on YouTube. So each one has its purpose. It's a very interesting game for each one that's playing it.
I think for me, though, from what we found since we've really started leaning into what does the copy have in it more so, and that also being a relevant piece of valuable content. And, you know, I'll mention how we're using AI as well to leverage that as well. But for me, it's actually allowed me to tell the platform, this is what this video is about. Because in layman's terms, all the platform knows is, cool, shiny video, fantastic. And maybe it knows what it says because it can hear the transcript, it can hear the audio. But until you give it that massive caption boost, hence why TikTok boosted the caption limit, hence why, etc., all these other platforms did so, was because they wanted to basically give the user the opportunity to feed all this data about the video. And that's where I think sometimes people don't spend enough time, is what I'll say, and that's why I paused. But also, something that we've been finding very, very useful if you are time starved, right? This is not the golden solution by any means, but it is the best middle ground I've found between spending a huge amount of time writing a really complicated caption that, let's be honest, no one's going to read. The point of the caption isn't for someone to read it. The point of the caption, in my understanding, is for the algorithm to understand what the video is so it can serve it to the correct initial, what's known as a seed audience, or the first audience that it's shown to, which is more likely for a piece of content to go viral. An entirely separate conversation I'm sure we can get into. But very quickly, what role would you say ChatGPT in its rise has actually caused a lot of creators to actually have? Because for me, it was a really good leveler for those who wanted to be on search and were producing a lot of content, but maybe didn't want to spend a lot of huge time, effort, energy, or resources to actually go, right, we're going to really fine tune our copy, you know, just for algorithmic sake.
So there's probably two parts to the answer. There's the using ChatGPT to improve your own captions for your content so it can be more search friendly. And that's, for me, that's more of a mindset piece and how you should look at what you do to your social. And then the second part is how ChatGPT has actually changed user behavior in general, and just across the board, when people are defaulting to AI, social, and Google in different situations. And here's where I think people are missing the trick, especially in like small and medium-sized businesses. If I want an immediate answer, just like with smart speakers, I'm just going to ask, right? And plenty of people have Siri, they have Google, Alexa, whatever device I've just set off, right? Those are those quick answers. The stuff that I can't be asked to Google and then look for a blog for, trawl through all the ads, and then find my answer, right? No one wants that. That's where AI is coming into play to accelerate that almost smart speaker piece, right? And they play into each other. They're basically the same thing. And it's just how you get that information. So bearing in mind, that's quick, easy stuff. And that used to be the high touch things that people would dive into. HubSpot, for instance, let's take their example. HubSpot, before that element existed, owned that space because they'd churn out so many bloody blogs. It's ridiculous. They had an answer for everything in and around their space. People are still using that approach, even though the kind of search behavior has changed. It does have a part to play, but it's neither here nor there at that point. Then social search comes into it. Now, for me, social search is something where I trust the information of individuals for certain things over what I can only assume is a paid for blog. So let's say I'm moving to Manchester and want to find the top 5 places to actually hang out and go to. If I type that question in on Google, I'm going to have to trawl through TripAdvisor and some other bollocks. That's all going to be ads. It's all going to be paid for sponsorships. You have no idea what's true, what's not, and you have no idea for what's real. Now, if I've sent that question on TikTok, I'm going to have hundreds of questions, more engaging, quicker, and from a real person that I can just verify. Like I was chatting to someone in the pub. That human element actually plays a part in that social search piece. So now people are taking to things like TikTok, which is constantly knocking Google off as the top search platform in the world. People don't understand that they're competing for this because of the different types of search questions. So when you think about where your brand would sit, where does it sit best? Is it still classic Google? Is it social search actually in terms of lifestyle pieces? Or is it actually, how do I optimize my website to be AI pulled from? But that kind of plays into both Google and it plays into the AI piece. And that's why I say it still has a part to play. You just have to play it differently. So that's on the kind of how search has changed. How people need to use it as a business is just to speed up the thing, right? I'm trying not to replace the humanity in my organization too much because creativity still has a massive part in getting the eye, especially when it comes to copy and text. So our process is we use ChatGPT for every kind of piece of copy that goes out, but only as a search keyword improver and quality assurance checker. So I get my team to write up what we think is going to be best. Go to ChatGPT, hey, can you proofread this in UK English? And can you see if it's good for keywords looking at these search terms? And then it will just spit out something a little bit better. And we know it's proofread all at once. So in terms of how people can just use it for immediate success, that's how I'd use that. So it's a really interesting concept in terms of how we need to look at it mindset wise and the different platforms that they play. And, ChatGPT in general, how you can use it as a workflow in-house.
I think there's also like a large question around the concept of AI as a whole, right? Because we talked about it before the show about, should people use AI? Are people using AI? There's a large percentage of the people in our world and in general who are like, nope, not going to use it. Nope, not for me, not a thing. But it reminds me of the kind of golden rush on the internet to an extent because everyone was like, no, I'm not going to use it. No way.
People used to take the mickey. The people that used to have laptops. You go back and watch old episodes of Friends and they're calling Chandler a nerd for using Excel for his job. And you're like, huh? Like, it's a completely different world.
Yeah, and and also we're so early in AI, right? How we actually will use it day to day, we don't even realize yet, right? But actually, as you say, it could be an accelerator, and also there's the question of actually if you're going to use it to condense that time and means you can do more, how are you using that creatively, or how are you using that more effectively? To option A, do more client work, create more client work, create more marketing, etc. Or option B, actually optimizing what you're then doing, right? So for me personally, I used Ops Clips to generate 95% of what this podcast clips exist because, yes, I could create this, right? I could create those exact clips in the exact way. It would take me 3 times as long, and I don't have that available time anymore. I just don't.
Yes.
And the reality is, if I want this volume of clips at this quality, the shortest path of me doing it is using Ops Clips or equivalent other podcast AI editors are available, I'm sure, right? And I'm sure I'll get loads of DMs after this episode goes out about other options. Anyway, welcome to here. The crux of the point there is actually understanding, okay, so I'm going to save time here, but then how can I leverage that? How can I use that to create better content or more content? So for me personally, I use that time to say, okay, I'm now going to create a bunch of other content that otherwise wouldn't exist because I would spend my life doing grunt work, e.g. cutting up my own podcast, for example, right?
Yes.
So that's a example of how you can save time. But I guess, I mean, this is kind of a two-part question. Number one, what would you say to people who are in the mindset of, I'm not going to use AI because, etc., or a copywriter who's like, ChatGPT just stole my job, for example, which I'm sure you've heard and I heard.
Yes.
It didn't, by the way. It
definitely did not.
It definitely didn't. And or, why should someone consider leveraging AI video editors as well? Because I'm sure there's going to be a percentage of video editors in the comments going, well, I'm out of a job too then.
Yeah, you're definitely not. So with the influx of AI content becomes a want for originality and creativity. And this is, I understand the resistance from a video editing copywriting point of view, because it is threatening. But what we need to understand is that businesses are going to be leveraging this like they have a new in-house marketing copy assistant. It's who would be an entry-level role, who's proofreading, who's slightly having a look at things and just doing, like you said, the grunt work, right? We just want to take that out of the equation. So even new starters in the company would actually be able to be more creative and high level in terms of how they think, as opposed to back when I started the marketing and I'm like dreadfully reading through all the T's and C's on this poster and I want to die, right? So we can just remove that from the equation. That's how we need to look at it. It's a convenience. It's a piece of technology. It is not here to hurt us. It's here to help us. And it's super simple. Again, just look at it and going, how do I just improve that? How do I check that? I mean, I have not explored the full realms of ChatGPT. I mean, with the update of 4 and the rest of the other versions, which I'm not even sure if I'm fully caught up with, the kind of Zapier integrations and everything else you can do, then comes a massive admin booster in terms of what you can actually get it to do, from organizing spreadsheets and all the rest of it. I'm no expert on that stuff. All I'm using it for is a practical day-to-day from social media and tech. But it's within that creativity where humans can't be replaced. And I know we were referencing like Midjourney, that can obviously create AI art and things like that. It's never spot on. You can't just put AI art out as an ad, or you can't put AI art out as, you might be able to do a casual social post, but you have to talk about that. It's just something we've made on Midjourney, right? It can really help for like, background graphics on a PowerPoint, for instance. You don't have to go trawling through endless stock imagery, because a lot of stock imagery is crap and boring. So it's just little things like that. It's just look at it as a helper. Really, don't really look at it as it's coming from my job X, Y, and Z. Because if you're a good copywriter, there's no way a piece of tech could replace that. And if you're a good video editor, there's no way people will replace that, because tools like Opus.clip, I love it and I use it, but all it's doing is identically copying the style of Alex Hormozy caption. The thing that brands need to do now is evolve their own unique style from the principles at work. What that's doing is just taking the principles of what I've been calling attention retention. What are the sound effects, the cuts, the things that pop on screen, the B-roll? All of that flows into how do you keep the eye? How do you keep the eye? That's what editors need to look at, and that's what the AI ones won't do. But they will be able to help us make a quick rough cut, or using things like Autopod on Premiere to cut back and forth between multicams, so I don't have to have someone in the room switching, because we have a physical switcher that we had to sit in the room for. As soon as Autopod came out, I was like, well, that's a piece of kit I didn't need to buy, but now I have it, right? So again, it's just helpful, it's time saving, and it can be a bloody godsend if you start implementing it in the right way. That's why we have AI guidelines at Shogun.
Yeah, and I think, as I say, I think it's one of those things where, as the industry, you, me, whoever, etc., ends up using it more, will understand, okay, actually, these are the benefits of doing it. Actually, these are the caveats of doing it. And, you're going to experiment with how to use it. I'm going to experiment with how to use it, and as we discussed when we were before coming on the show, we are not experts. No one that says they are a prompt expert or they're an AI expert, unless you work for OpenAI, you are not an expert in AI. You're not. Sorry, you're not.
Many a dev is obviously working in AI now, has that capability. So there will be people that are experts outside of those companies, but often the same people that were performance coaches are now turning into AI prompt engineers. And those are the things you have to go, hey, weren't you doing that thing before? Now you've just sat there, probably watched 10 videos on ChatGPT, and now I'm an AI prompt engineer, right there. So and again, so many companies that will not really even be able to take full advantage of ChatGPT, because you'd have to dedicate a lot of someone's individual time to mastering it. And then when you really look at the stats, you go, well, how many hours are worth investing in to optimize? And how many hours did I just waste on this person because I think AI is at the place where we need it to be? And each use case with each different company is so different. I mean, a company that does like a chemical plant or nuclear power is going to benefit from barely any of this. Whereas, a marketing agency can benefit from loads, and MarTech is where it's kind of starting and evolving out from. So, yeah, it's an interesting spot to be in, but just common sense is the key.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean. I think it's about saying, okay, if you're going to try it, okay, sure, try it, experiment with it, right? See what, not corners you can cut, but create this reality where, you know, it actually gives you the opportunity to create more, you know, whether that's more volume, what more value, higher quality, more tutorial-based content, create new series, whatever, because you have that available time. There's available resources that you otherwise wouldn't have because you're needing someone to do the grunt work, etc. Right? But you know, I don't think, and you know, speaking to production professionals in the live streaming space or in the video production space, I've had conversations lately about like, oh my god, AI edit is coming and it's going to take my job and etc. It's like, just consider for a second now, we still watch feature films because of the level of emotional and storytelling that they provide us with. I don't believe, and I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think you also, I think you agree with me on this. We will never be able to go to a point with AI where it actually has that emotional understanding of how a human can actually react to it. In the same way with advertising, the same way with marketing, the same way with etc. Because at the end of the day, we can optimize the tunnel which our content goes through, our ads go through, our whatever goes through. But who hits when it goes at the other end? Who's it going to be consumed by? A human, right? So that's the emotional connection, that's the energy, that's the resource. So for me, and it was very interesting because I saw a video the other week, if I can find it, I'll leave it in the description, talking about a YouTuber who I won't mention by name, but he basically tried to AI his whole self and then create YouTube videos completely with AI as a concept.
Yeah, he's using, I've seen him.
You know, and it's like, I get why you're doing it, but also you're missing the essence of what YouTube is designed for in the first place, right? Yeah. YouTube as a concept, for those who don't know, were designed to share stories with family and friends in a really nutcase, really basic level that then exploded to now you can share it with an audience and now you can monetize it and now you can make lots of money and blah, 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 and so on, right? And also, just to be asterisks, a very small percentage of YouTubers will make a significant amount of money from YouTube. Probably about 80% of YouTube is literally just designed for marketing people in business to create marketing content that then can sit on another platform in the same way you would use Instagram. So everything we discussed here.
Too many people use their YouTube channels like Vimeo, and it drives me a bit mental because there's so much potential within it. But it's YouTube, probably apart from TikTok, has the largest time dedication to it. And I always say to brands, listen, if you're going to do it, let's do it right. But you can't half-ass it because nothing will happen, because YouTubers spend 5-10 years getting to where they are. And just because you're a brand, you actually have it harder because you're not an individual person. So, yeah, I mean, if we get into the stage where AI understands human emotion, I feel like we've got bigger fish to fry. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to start putting in some iRobot things going on here. But yeah, no, it's such an interesting space, and obviously there's always going to be people that are resistant to change. But I'm always in the mindset of, well, I'll see you at the finish line then, mate, because I'm going to be using it to help me out. So for me, and that side, it is what it is. People use it, we don't.
Yeah, and as I said, I don't think it will replace you. I think it can just be a tool, like a camera was a tool, like the internet is a tool, like a laptop is a tool, etc. But talking about these tools, right? We've also seen recently the Threads is this new concept, right? For those who don't know, it's Instagram's competition to Twitter/X, since their rebrand got very confusing. Thanks, Elon. What's your view? What's your thoughts on Threads? Because to me, I'm just like, as someone who isn't a heavy text post person, who's for obvious reasons focused on video and video solely. It was less interesting to me. I was like, okay, that's an interesting thing from a purely attention grabbing and attention, you know, all the big players are trying to fight each other kind of thing.
Yes.
What does this mean for retention? What does this mean for like content creation, etc.? Like, what can people potentially use it for? What Threads? What is it? What, like, why should we give a shit, James?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think right now you shouldn't. But no. So the thing is, Threads on paper is the perfect strategic move. So Threads on paper is capitalizing on X's almost shift that's been going on over the last couple of years to almost right-wing-esqueness because it's been run by Elon. It's creating stability and an identical platform that's probably more brand-friendly as well, to juxtapose what's going on with the chaotic energy of X. So on paper, it's a good move. How they launched it was a bloody good move as well, because you needed an Instagram. And if you had an Instagram, it took all of like 1 second to open up and bang, you've got Threads. And it's told everyone who's following you that you've just started your Threads, and lets you know when people's followed you. So it felt like a lot was going on as soon as you opened the app. And when we first had it, we were testing it over the first like kind of week to really test out different content variants, what the content meta would be. And when I mean content meta, like what helps you grow on that platform, what exposes you to an audience. And right now, it doesn't really exist. So apart from text posts occasionally reaching more people, which from what we found, text posts are the most successful, very similar to Twitter really in that sense that nothing really surpasses a text post. There's really not a whole lot to it. What everyone's doing is taking what they've got on X/Twitter and they're copying and pasting over to Threads to keep it alive. But everyone's kind of sat there going, I don't know what to do with this, because there's not like a growth engine like we're now used to in these platforms. So even things like Twitter, if you click on a video on Twitter, you can just keep scrolling, you'll get served new videos. Now that isn't like a full-blown like Reels feature or a TikTok, but that's not really an option to you. You're kind of just sat there going, I guess I'll just tweet stuff and I guess hope it works. But because there's no discovery engine, basically the golden rule is if you were on Instagram, you did well on Instagram, and you often put out quite a lot on your stories, maybe you're quite text-based or informational, personal channel, or even a brand, Threads is still probably a good place for you. But right now, I can't even advise people on what's best to do on there. All I can say is keep up appearances. X, on the other hand, there's a couple of things you can do, but to be honest, there's not a lot going on with Threads. And until they develop their own creator economy, until they develop a growth engine, there's not going to be much potential for brands to jump on there from an exposure point of view, or creators to jump on there to make a living. Because those are the only platforms that drive our culture, the ones where creators can make a living. Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. That's why all of our memes are video. Like you can make a certain amount of money on Instagram, but usually from sponsorships and everything else, and they work paying people a little bit. But yeah, creators will always dictate how the platform works. And for creators to come, they need incentive. And for people to grow, you need a growth engine. So not a lot going on, very early stage. I can't judge it yet, but so far it's very much leveled out and it's declined heavily, especially for those incredible first numbers. But time will tell what they drop and update to see how it goes.
I think it'll be a very interesting one to watch, as I say, especially as the kind of head-to-head between Threads and X or Twitter, really sort of heats, quote-unquote, heats up, right? I think that'll be the more interesting element. But it does open up a question of, like, there's going to be a percentage of people who watch this and go, okay, James, it's very well and easy for you and Colton to sit there and say, what content, how we're posting our content, how we're doing our content, etc., 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 because we're both very seasoned at creating content, right? In this principle of creating content, right? We most likely do it daily, if not weekly, etc., right? In respect to actually creating it, right? Posting is very possibly, very likely to be daily, if not multiple times a day, but actually creating it pretty much for me at the moment is also daily as well. And I think so many people overthink how easy it can be to create content. So for those who are maybe new to the content space and new to especially video, because it's becoming the easiest to create quickly and easily if you have the mindset and the understanding to actually create that. But how would you suggest to a client, would you suggest to someone listening to this, people start with creating content as a whole? Because one of the main conversations I have with coaching clients is, what content should I create, Colton? Right? What content is valuable?
The internal question. So there's a couple of parts to it. One, you almost don't know what is truly valuable to a customer until you just start putting stuff out there and see what sticks and see what they tell you. So data informed and people informed and customer informed content will always help, right? There's assumptions you can make beforehand. So there's two layers. The first of which for me is the Holy Trinity. So you would have heard this 1,000 times, whether it be from me or anyone else. Does your piece of content educate, inspire, or entertain? Now, I'm not talking about, say, what most people do is they think, oh, yeah, I'm educating. Just talking about what you do as a service is not educating, it's selling. So scratch that, right? Actually help people, not just a standard, jargon buster graphic. I'm talking about go out of your way. Specifically, most of the time I'm referring to video content when I talk about these kind of different ideas. So educating and entertain fairly self-explanatory, and of course inspire when you can, if you have something at your disposal. This all revolves around, again, think about your brand, right? Whether depending on what sector you're in, so let's say marketing. My goal when I think about this content is to get over to a certain side of the internet, marketing talk, business talk, B2B talk, whatever that is. And then how do I put it through a second layer? So the second layer is is it shareable, savable, or worthy of a comment? Because those are the things that are usually valued most along the algorithms. The fourth new one being video views and video retention rate across that video. So if you think about those things in two orders, so step one, would anyone really give a shit? Does it educate, inspire, entertain? Would someone save it, share it, or actually write something with their own human fingers? Is it that good? Does it go through those filters? And then you can just kind of start with, how do I even explain what I even do? If I wanted to do, like if I went to speak at a school and they had no idea what structural engineering was, how do you explain that without it being the most boring thing in the world? That's how you need to treat social. Everyone's an audience to be educated. Everyone is basically a talk to give. And people are very passionate about their areas, right? And that's often where people run into a barrier, because sometimes you get lucky and there are people that are comfortable speaking on camera, like myself and you. And then there's sometimes you go into a company, they have tremendous potential, so much to educate on. And you go, right, who's going to be on camera? Because we need to tell people. And they're like, well, it's not me, can it be him or it's going to be her? Then it gets sticky, right? But you have to find where best for you to do things. I always recommend podcasting as a kind of first port of call, because you can just sit down with a colleague or a guest and just talk as human beings. That is the easiest way to do it. Then you clip it, and then you can use AI tools to do that. So it's the easiest way in, and you can still feel comfortable because you're not alone. Even for me, a seasoned vet, trying to do vlogs and podcasts and all that kind of stuff, stick just a camera in front of me, I forget everything I've ever thought of in my life. It's just classic brain fog. It doesn't even have to be up to nerves. It's just like, what are they talking about? You just forget. So start easy, expand out, and put your stuff through those filters, and just educate someone like they had no idea what you are, but how do you make what you are, what you sell, and what you do interesting? That's always the key.
I really agree with all of that, but I think it's important to asterisk as well. When we say, oh, we're seasoned professional, we can talk well on camera, that's simply to do with the fact we've done it for a shit ton of time. It's not magic. It's not like an illusion. It's not this, and I still get it wrong. I'm sure you still get it wrong, etc., etc.
Yep.
You know, insert outtake reel here. But the point that I always mention when I talk about on shows, I talk in general, is like, you just have to do it. There is no easy way. There is no reality. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's awkward. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, blah, 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 blah. However, it is the sole best way to build trust quickly, period. Underline, there is nothing better. Full stop, underline. That's it, right? Unless you're going to meet 1,000 people a day, that's the only other better way, right? I mean, if someone listening knows how to do that without killing themselves, great, let me know. There isn't an easy way to scale that, though. Right? Content, video content like this, is the best way to scale that, right? The amount of people who fully trust me in a sales call because of the content they've consumed. I've never spoken to the person in general, never spoken to them, never met them, etc. But they fully trust me because of the content they've consumed, and they understand how I work, they understand why I work, the way I work, etc., etc. And that's the power of why video content can happen. Podcasting is great, conversation-based stuff is great. I think for me, whenever you do anything with video specifically, keeping it really basic and layman's is always going to be better, but it also is a very good practice for you to not get very jargony. Because I think when we're in a, in the marketing world, in any culture related reality, we're so used to acronyms because everyone around us passively will know them, right? So we're just going to use them off the top of our tongue. But when we do a marketing piece, and why I try and get my clients, and I'm sure you do as well, to get in the habit of creating content consistently, is it pulls you back down to base level every time to say, this is what this acronym means. This is why I need to articulate it. And also, I think there's sometimes an underestimated element when it comes to just practicing articulation of any kind, right? Articulating to a camera, articulating in general. Even if you don't use the video, you've still practiced articulating what you do and how you do it and why, and how it's valuable, truly valuable, not, oh, I sell video, come and buy it, thanks. No, why is it valuable, right? Why do I need to give a shit, right? But then when it actually comes to a sales opportunity, a conversation, a networking conversation, whatever it is, you're going to be passively better, and you're going to be passively more confident and more practiced because you're in the habit of doing it repeatedly. Because you're in that habit of... So same with public speaking. You're not going to gain magically good at public speaking unless you get in front of a room and start publicly speaking. A way to fix that could be starting with video, starting with talking to your phone, starting to create content, and then jump to public speaking, right? But there is no such thing as a comfortable road to doing that. The only way you get good at it, like anything, is a skill. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes constant energy and constant improvement, but also being able to take that feedback on board.
Yes.
I mean, we can't talk about online content and not talk about hate comments, not talk about trolls, not talk about that side of the internet too. And I'm sure you've had your own experiences with that until the cows come home, right? But how did you initially deal with that? Because I think a lot of people, that's sometimes their issue with why they don't do it, because they're like, oh my God, Sally or Bob 67 9052 billion is going to call me a dick online, or is going to say my hat's stupid, or is going to say I need to shave, or I'm fat, or I'm thin, or I'm upside down, or I'm white, black, whatever the insult of the week is. How did you deal with that? Like actually being okay with the fact that that's going to happen sometimes.
So there's many spiritual answers you can give to that question, but it's one of those ones where I went in knowing it was going to happen, and then it happened, and then you do get upset about it. You do look at it. Your first instinct is to want to argue back at the comment, but then after you get more than 1, 2, 3, 4, actually, you then go, when you look back at the first one, you can't even remember. So you then kind of, that experience gives you the perspective of this too shall pass. Because if you tell anyone before they've started that, don't worry, hate comments won't affect you, they will. You'll read them. You'll want to argue. But then you forget about it because you're going to have more positive ones and you're going to have negative ones. Time fixes it. So it's one of those things where it's going to happen just the same as it's going to rain in England. So just expect it as part of the package. Try not to overthink it too much. And if you do start getting heavy influx, then you've got to ask yourself, what have I done in my content to get so much hate? Or if it's literally just, basically cyberbullying, in which case that's a different story. So yeah, it's always a this too shall pass scenario. I cannot lie to say it's never affected me or give a very zen answer. I just know time has healed any immediate annoyance I've had at the comment. Because I remember trying to start a personal brand channel outside of the Shogun one, which I need to revive on TikTok. And I jumped in immediately because most of my audience is on LinkedIn, and I started immediately talking like I would for my LinkedIn audience. And then I got a comment, and it was just like, well, who's this guy? How do you know? And I was like, oh yeah, they don't know who I am. So you have to understand that often when you get these hate comments, they're being discovered on feeds of infinite no context. So if you don't provide enough context or give a little bit of background on who you are, or even just explain the reasonings behind what you've explained, you miss one little piece and someone's going to point it out because people have nothing better to do with their day. But you need to kind of take that into account when you get these hate comments and go, actually, someone's discovering this out of context. It can be a fair point. It can be just mean. And then you can ascertain how you feel about it later. But you are going to be human. But it will just fade away just the same way as anything else does, unless it's horrendous, in which case we have to review that. But usually that's what happens. And that's how I've dealt with it. Just let time take its course.
I also think the more you've been on, I mean, I've been very fortunate, right? Like I have kind of tinted spectacles on this because I've grown up creating content on the internet, right? So I didn't have this kind of like, I'm going to do content as a business thing. It wasn't a thing that I did because I was just like, yeah, that's of course what I do. I create game content for a long time, 10 years plus, etc., etc. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be dickheads online. Okay, fine, right? For me, I already had that thick skin. But eventually you will develop that thick skin. I also think it comes with, and I was having a conversation with my mum yesterday about this, about stress as a whole. It's like the larger you get as a company, the more you do, the more experience you gain as a company, etc. Especially at the moment, right? Because I imagine there's a huge amount of people who are in either financial stress, worried about stuff, whatever the cause of your stress is, right? It could be lack of work, could be lack of pipeline, could be lack of money, could be lack of cash flow, whatever, etc. Right? But you again gain this kind of, I guess, in some ways, this resistance to that level of stress as well, because you have the context in your brain anyway, from a psychology point of view, of going, okay, I didn't die last time and I figured it out last time, right? The issue when you do it first time is, shit, I don't know if I'm not going to die here, right? And it's, I guess, that social cue, moving back to like the hate comment thing, is like that social cue of saying, no, we don't like this person. But what I always think about it is, okay, well, firstly, is that person commenting likely to be valuable to me in some way or another moving forward as part of my audience and or potential client? Okay, then how do I, maybe, as you say, look at the content? Was there context I didn't articulate, etc., etc., etc.? Or is it just someone renting or venting and using me as that catalyst to say they had a bad day, so they're going to shit on Colton because Colton's there, right? And Colton's in the way, and his hat's stupid, and his podcast is lighting shit or whatever, or his mic sounds crap, whatever yardstick they want to use. And I think when you create content consistently, you do become immune to it, but also you will naturally gain better because you're doing it more like any other skill. But for those who've really enjoyed the show, who've really thought about it, and, you know, are thinking, okay, I'm going to start social, right? Because there's still a large percentage of us, personal brand, business brand, etc., who haven't actually touched social still. Maybe they're on it because they comment and they have a network in respect to, they have connections, but they aren't creating content for it. How would you suggest they start? Because I think the starting point can be actually the hardest, and sometimes that's the reason why 95% don't, because I don't know what I'm doing, James. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes. So it completely depends if you're starting from a personal brand point of view or a brand point of view. So if we start with a brand example, the exercise I do with especially some of my newer clients, is going, right, if your brand was one person and it was a content creator, what platforms would they be on and how would they help people? So I've always thought of Shogun as more of like a YouTuber, in that sense, where we kind of dive into certain subjects and we help out with certain bits. And I really want to start doing that a bit more. So we go, right, maybe YouTube's the play. Maybe we're great at, getting across information. But if you run an e-commerce brand, maybe it's, actually, we prefer to look at aesthetics, or we do more short fire stuff on TikTok and Instagram Reels. So you start to look at it from that perspective, and then it can inform you on what others are creating in that space. When you do research from a brand point of view, I would always lean towards looking more at content creators than your competition. If you look too heavily at your competition, it can be so easy to fall into the trap of, oh my God, they're doing something great, we should do that too. And you'll forever be a step behind. Focus on your originality when it comes to social, because otherwise you'll just be copying forever, and trying to keep up with the Joneses, and it's just no good. So start with a unique styling, right? And also just do it authentically. Authenticity is such a buzzword now. Like, what are the actual practicalities of it? The practicalities are just, one, showing up as who you are and who your team are. So for example, we work with a company called Skill Scaffolding down in Nursling, big scaffolder. They're really great. And they've got this really nice site down south. And we just went on site, got a mic on one of the boys in the yard. I was just like, what are you doing? What are you up to? So I'm putting this over here. Why are you putting it over there? Oh, because it's this and this. And slowly but surely, this TikTok account is rapidly gaining views. Like, their last video hit 79,000 views. And all he's doing is putting scaffolding poles in a pile. And all we asked was, why are you putting it there? And why are the poles red? And he just answered it. But he's got energy, he's enthusiastic, he's a normal human being. And it's an underserved market when looking at the full transparency of what happens in construction. No one's really dived in and looked at it before, apart from amazing people like Asheville on YouTube. So it's just eating up views. So we've had ones across 100,000, 50K, like any video of theirs that gets under 10K is an anomaly. And it could be about the most mundane things. One of them was 50K talking about a check-in system at work, right? But it's just because the MD was there going, oh, this is how the boys come in, because it's not for like clocking them in, it's for the vans. And everyone's like, oh, in the comments, they get it. They're getting a view into what it's really like. That's authenticity. Just show up, man. Just press record. Like, that's the think media kind of tagline, but it's just as that. The more you think about it, the worse it gets. Just start recording stuff that could be valuable in the context of what creator you could be.
Yeah. And, and I can be a testament to that as well. When we started doing the kind of production videos in general, whether that's the YouTube long ones or the short 90-second, like, this is what we're doing today, this is how we're doing it, the amount of people who said, I get it now, I understand it, I can work with you, I get it, and I just broke those barriers down in literally 2 minutes. 2 minutes, so they went from, that's terrifying, to, oh my God, I get it. And that's so valuable to me as a business, because that removes that entire, oh my God, the concept of a set, lighting, interviewing, that, and people get in their head and it just bounces around forever. But that's why I started doing it, and that's why I started investing in it, because I saw that was the main hurdle in my potential clients who are maybe right about to be on the fence and about to be like, yes, let's do something. Fantastic. Okay, but they can't because they're worried about what it's like on a set. They don't know how it feels. They don't know what I'm going to be like. They don't know what the camera setup's going to be like, etc., etc. All these like what if moments.
You answer so many FAQs that you didn't even know someone had. It's incredible, just being normal and transparent and just giving it a crack.
But
That's what it's about.
also the other side from a personal branding point of view is, James might watch it and go, actually, Colton, I don't connect with you. I don't think that's going to work, right? I don't think that's the case with me and James, but I use him as an example. He might watch a video of me on set and go, actually, that's not going to work with me and my style, and that's going to annoy me, or that's going to not make me feel comfortable, etc. And that's like, okay, cool, we've saved everyone time, right? That's good, right? Now, always happy to have a conversation, say, well, maybe we're not the right fit. Actually, have you thought about talking to James? Talk about this, and that's where I think it comes from, this collaboration mindset around that. I don't see anyone as a competitor. Well, they do what I do, because arguably, right, if you want to go down this road, you could say me and you are competitors. I wouldn't, but you could make the argument to say that's the case, right?
Yeah.
And then the final question I kind of wanted to end on the show on was like, how did you always have a kind of collaborative mindset more than a competing mindset? And if you didn't, how did you switch? Because I think that's one of the main, personally, in my own business experience, that's the main reason why I've been able to scale and grow and continue to move forward in times where it's got harder.
Absolutely. So I'm pretty sure I started with one. I have to really think about it, because I must have started one, because I've never thought about it too much. But one of the tactics I did remember learning was early days. I'm talking, this is like the first 6 months to a year of the business. I was taking the marketing MQL model to lead gen. So trying to find marketing qualified leads and making sure that, okay, we've got this number, that our conversion rate's this, we're not getting this many. And everyone was a number, everyone was a robot. And the content I was producing was purely a means to get them into a lead gen, folder and everything else. Completely removed the humanity from the situation. I didn't enjoy it. No one enjoyed it. And all the outreach I did was pretty naff when I look back at it. And then one day I was like, oh, this actually sucks. What if I just went, let me just speak to 5 new people every week? And then that's how it began. So I met people to work with. I met new clients. I just started talking to everyone, and I had a freaking blast. And my business exploded because of it. So that collaborative nature and just putting out good vibes, man. That's what it was all about. Like, the more complicated I made it, the worse it got. And depending on the size of business, that's where quite hard to do. But obviously, at the time, I was a freelancer, so that model helps so much. And actually, I want to introduce that more in now we've grown, because actually, I kind of missed that. And it opened up so many more things I never knew I was going to stumble upon. So that, plus transparency in your content, and possibly embracing pricing transparency, which is something we're going to do either this year or early next year. Have a full pricing page, different packages, and obviously you can create your own as well. Transparency into the content, so you can see how we work. All the questions are answered. If you want to come to me, you can. If not, I'm chilling. I'm doing my own thing. Like, that's what it's all about. Because let's just make everything a lot easier. Because life's too bloody short, in my opinion. So collaborativeness always, because we've only got one go at this.
No, I completely agree. And I think, especially on the pricing thing, I think so many people are scared of how expensive am I? It's a yardstick, guys. Right? There's going to be a percentage of the market that's lower than you. There's going to be a percentage of the market that's higher than you. Right? You know what your costs are. You know what your worth is. Right? A percentage of clients will be able to afford you, a percentage of clients won't, a percentage, etc. Right? It's not the biggest deal in the world that they think, right? Everyone does look around at pricing. Everyone does. Everyone gets to read quotes. Everyone looks at, right, this is the most expensive, this is the middle, and this is the bottom. Okay, cool, fine. What you can do is, instead of you having to do a sales call just to gather that information for that client, you can put it on your website, put it in a brochure, put it in a video, whatever you want to do. Yeah. And then they can go, right, okay, so Colton is this price, James is this price, and Sally is this price. Right, fantastic. So what's the value add? Because that's actually what they're sensitive on. They're not sensitive on the price. They're sensitive on the value in relationship to what they're going to spend, right? Which one am I going then to choose? It also might be personality based. So it might be, as I said earlier, James might go, actually, Colton, I don't like you on set. I don't like how you come across. I don't like the face. Whatever it's stupid, whatever it is. We just don't see each other. Fine, whatever, all good. All the love in the world to you, right? Or the other way around. It actually might be, I love, and I was speaking to Ed one-to-one this afternoon, where my approach is very kind of, let's go, let's get stuff done. But I'm also very aware that there's a percentage of the market that isn't going to want to act that way. And they want to be a bit more chill, and they want to be a bit more this and a bit more that, and they want to be as kind of gusto-y. But that's cool, right? Like, I can refer those people onto those right people, so they're in the right tribe, right?
Yes.
My tribe is let's go, let's get stuff done, right? And move quickly and fix problems fast, and let's create stuff, and you can see that in how I edit. You can see that in the content I create as well, because it is faster paced. It is going to be that way because that fits with the brand, right? And I think sometimes people get so oh, what if so and so doesn't like this, so I have to conform to what could be popular, instead of just going to the, I hate using a buzzword of authenticity, but instead of going to what's authentic to them, right? So like swearing is a good example. Some people are like, nah, I'm not gonna work with Concord, he swears. Okay, that's cool, all good, right? Other people are like, that's not a big deal, right? But for me, I'm going to swear, it's authentic to me. So that's why I don't hold back in content. That's why I don't try and censor myself in content, right?
Yes.
But I mean, how? I guess as a final question, because I'm aware of time. But how does someone get the self-confidence, self-belief, self-understanding? Would you say in actually being authentic on camera, in content, in copy, whatever medium on which they're using to articulate their message? Because I think that's one of the main hurdles that most people have in marketing nowadays, is actually not being able to be authentic.
Yes. And this does depend on what type of business you are, because obviously we're speaking from an entrepreneurial sense and a freelance and small agency sense, looking at like, how do we bootstrap our own brands using us and attracting the people that are like us and want to work with us? When we get to different brand sizes, this is where that authenticity needs to differ, and how you execute that is slightly different. But staying in that context of kind of how we look at it, you'll know what the right style of video delivery is. So this is why I know no matter how many different videos I do, I far prefer to do podcast content, because I can bounce off of someone else. You leverage their energy, and it reminds me of things my ADHD brain loves, the different threads I can pull on. Whereas if I sit down in front of a camera, I then go, right, I have to bring energy to each sentence. So I got a little kind of alert from my Google Photos the other day of a YouTube kind of video I did. It was a clip when I was setting up. I started a gaming and YouTube channel, an anime channel, just before I started my business, and the business started to take off, so the anime channel dropped off. But the interesting part about it was I looked back at some of the takes, and I was hitting the old, what's up, you guys? Like, they're trying to put on this thing that just wasn't me. And I'm like, that is a completely different person. And I can see when the take finishes and I'm going to turn the camera off, it's like, because I'm putting it on, right? So you can look at those takes actively and go, well, that wasn't me, was it? Like, that was crock of shit. That is someone else. Because you cannot start a consistent round of social content and video content with that facade forever. This is why other top creators burn the hell out. But this is why other creators that have stayed on top, when we think about the Sidemen and KSI and a lot of those different groups, they had to be themselves since day one in their group as well. You saw their dynamic. And there's no way they could have been pretending to be a character forever, especially in amongst their social circle. But that's why they stayed on top, because everyone knows that's the real them. So you have to really kind of look inward and look at takes you've taken and gone, does that make me feel icky or not? Is that actually me? How would I deliver that? And to hell with what you think you need to do from an algorithmic point of view. Just do what you want to do because you want to do it, and your tribe will find you, because we now have these algorithmic engines to send you to the right place. So those chill people will find your more chill vibe. Before, it didn't exist. So you had to cater to whatever the YouTube gods gifted you, or any other ones. Now it's different. You will always find your tribe now, especially via short content. So just be you, man, is the kind of spiritual stuff, but also just like really look at the take and go, am I putting it on here?
Yeah, and I think also it makes content creation easier, right? Because when you are just being you, it's very simple. I've said every single word in the English language. So if someone wanted to splice up and get me to say anything, you could, right?
Yeah,
you genuinely
easily
could.
get an AI trained on your voice at the moment.
That's what I mean. Like when we get to deepfakes and like me talking thing, I'm fucked. Right? I've just realised that I'm fucked.
Me and you
right?
are both.
And that's what I mean. Like anyone who's created content for a long time is just in deep trouble. But
there's so many credit cards you could get off of me.
It's not even funny. But for those who've enjoyed this conversation and want to connect with you, want to hear more about Shogun, want to hear more about you, your business, your story, maybe anime, gaming, whatever, where can people connect with you, James?
Absolutely. So on most platforms, it's just at Shogun Social or just James Gale on LinkedIn. That's usually the best place to find me. Let's have a chat. I'm open to talk about anything. More networking, the better, and more tech events, because I want to get out and about now. Still got those lockdown blues a little bit, so I need to get out of the house, I think. But yeah, lovely being on. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome. And for those who are gonna do it, gonna jump into content, gonna jump into social, gonna do it. They've been inspired by what we've done today, by that conversation. What final bit of advice would you give them?
Bank your content and work 2 weeks to a month ahead. That's like, as much as the usual phrase would be, just do it, just hit record. No, batch. batch, edit, and take the pressure off yourself. And then you can select creation weeks and editing weeks for you to actually do stuff, especially if you want to go hard, especially if you want to embrace video. That it helps you, gives you all the you need brain space. I know when you have motivation, you want to do everything right now and get that first video out. I've literally done it time and time again. Every time I restart the podcast or YouTube videos, I put the first one out straight away. And then I'm running like a bloody hamster trying to catch up myself. For our clients, they all work them up ahead. So I never actually give myself what I preach, but seriously, yeah, get ahead of yourself, take the stress off, and allow you to think a bit more and maybe set things up and make things more interesting, because that's always a massive key. And again, if you have a brand of a larger size, I'm talking medium to larger businesses, that's where we become specialists at helping you become your authentic self, but at scale, using multiple different departments, especially globally. We work with multiple global brands in terms of how we coordinate Paris with New York with London, and how we actually go, how do we make some non-cringe corporate content that might help someone? So if you need that, give us a shout. But in general, work ahead of yourself.
Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me once again. If you did take value from this episode and would like to hear how video can help your business in 2023, then please feel free to find my information somewhere around this video. I'll be back next week with a new video for you, talking about growth and how you can create demand rather than serving the demand in your market. Thank you ever so much. Stay strong, healthy, and positive, and I'll see you very, very